Episode 8 of The Bear Season 3 starts with Natalie trying to drive herself out of a traffic jam, all while feeling her labour cramps. When nobody from the Bear picks up her phone, Nat gets frustrated and calls her mother. Double D arrives and Nat desperately asks her to keep things calm. At the hospital, Double D chats more about motherhood with the nurse. When Natalie tells the doctor she doesn't want an epidural, Double D argues that she should get one. Eventually though, Natalie thanks Double D for coming over and Double D thanks her for asking. Soon, she has her first contraction and Double D helps her through it. After that, Double D brings up the fact that Nat never told her about the baby. Instead, Nat asks her to continue her story about giving birth to Michael. She talks about how she had to walk herself to the hospital while she was in labour and how Michael was twisted up inside her, but ultimately it was a smooth birth. Nat then asks about Carmy and Double D begins that story. She says the kid's father was there and asked him for a sedative for himself. And Carmy took a very long time and she had to move around a lot. Then Nat has another contraction and once again Double D helps her through it. She then goes out to get Nat some ice chips and comes back just as Nat is having another painful contraction. Both of them enjoy the ice chips. The doctor comes in and tells Natalie that it's going to be a while before the birth begins. She considers taking some oxytocin to help fasten the process and decides to even think about an epidural. As Double D comforts Nat, she says that she thought Nat didn't want her around. Nat retorts it's just the stuff that Double D brings with her. Double D says she's trying to leave it all behind. Nat admits that she scared them as kids as she didn't want her baby to be scared the same way. Natalie then opens up about her worries and how she used to make herself sick in order to make Double D feel better. She just wants her daughter to be okay and to be a good mother herself, and Double D assures her she is going to be one. Another contraction comes and goes and then Double D feeds Nat more ice chips. As she holds her and hugs Natalie, they both laugh about how weird this is. This time, Nat asks about her own delivery. Double D says a few days before she was due and her husband wasn't around, so she slept early. She then had a dream about a giant but beautiful fish tank in a grey city. The tank looked like it was going to break apart, but she wasn't afraid. When she woke up, her water broke and she went to the hospital. Uncle Jimmy's first wife met her there and played a song for her, and just like that, Double D had Natalie. She looks at Nat a few moments longer and says she's beautiful. Nat asks which song and Double D plays Baby I Love You by the Ramones. Just then, Pete arrives and hugs Natalie. Double D quietly slips out of the room and Pete hugs her, thanking her for being there. Pete goes back inside just as Double D walks away. Later, the Fat brothers join Double D in the waiting room and remind her she's going to be a grandma. Episode 9 of The Bear Season 3 begins with a montage of clips about magic and illusion. Marcus turns out to be the one watching it. Outside, Carmy and the Fat brothers break down the delivery boxes. They insist they've been doing it like Carmy had told them to, but somehow the dumpster is always full of unbroken boxes. They say that maybe Claire is haunting Carmy because she's mad at him. Meanwhile, Sydney tries to practice a speech, telling Carmy about her new job offer, but is unable to string the words together. We then see a montage of Carmy yelling at his staff through service, interspersed with shots of news clips of the bear. These are presumably ones that Carmy is only imagining and aren't actually real. Richie and Carmy still don't see eye to eye and Sydney looks more frustrated than ever. Later, Richie is sitting with Gary when he realises they missed a guest's birthday. In the kitchen, Sydney and Carmy talk about how things have been a bit off. Sydney is about to tell him something but then backtracks and decides to talk later. Carmy tells her that the funeral dinner for the Ever is the next day. He tells Sydney that she should come too. Carmy then says he doesn't want it to be so hard to keep up with him but doesn't expand on this. After Sydney leaves, Carmy goes inside the walk-in fridge and thinks about calling Claire. He even practices apologising but is ultimately unable to call her. Back home, Sydney goes through several articles that talk about the bear but only mention Carmy and not her. The next day, Jimmy comes to leave his golf clubs with Carmy since he's going out of town. They both agree they've been thinking about the upcoming Tribune review a lot. Jimmy then goes on a rant about how a lot of crazy dreams were achieved by people in Chicago while they were financed by the university. His point is if the restaurant gets a bad review then he's going to cut the string. He then tells Carmy that his mother wants him to call. He also apologises for not doing more when things were crazy with Double D and Mikey. Carmy says he also could have tried more. Later, we see Jimmy get back in the car with Computer, and we realise that was not the whole truth. Apparently, Jimmy isn't doing well financially and is about to go broke. Richie meets with Tiff at a playground where Evie is playing. She asks him about his RSVP for the wedding and tells him he's her family and she would like him to come. When Richie brings it up, Tiff apologises for telling Evie that he's alone. Back at the Bear, Tina works on a new dish and Marcus tells her it's really good. She asks if he's doing okay and he admits getting flashes of memories with his mother. He then gives Tina the idea to use smoked horseradish in a cauliflower dish. We then see Carmy sketching and drawing in his notebook at various points in his career. Elsewhere, Sydney goes out to the seaside. Ted and Neil have a brilliant idea of going to the hospital and speaking to Claire on Carmy's behalf, which truly sounds like the worst idea ever. Sid completes her journey and reaches Sydney and Pete's house with a bag full of food for the new mother and child. Pete thanks her and then brings up the partnership contract, which he, as a lawyer, looked through. He tells her the salary and that insurance starts after 3 months, which is not as good as the contract that Shapiro offered her. Neil and Ted do meet with Claire and make a rough, badly structured case for Carmy. They say he still loves, and she very politely asks him to leave her place of work. Back home, Nat fawns over her newborn. Carmy though, all dressed for the funeral dinner, leaves his prayer card behind as he walks out, and that is where episode 9 comes to an end. So this is one of the slowest episodes of the season and also has some of the show's weakest writing. While it is clear that this episode is meant for characters to apologise and come to terms with what they've done, the writing feels a bit loose and sloppy compared to the generally tight scripts we've had in the past. It's not just that the pace is slow that's the issue. The Bear is known for episodes that aren't just fast and snappy, but are constructed to say something. Through the quick cuts and jumbled dialogue, The Bear offered episodes that were artistic, engaging and meaningful all at once. Apologies fails to meet those marks. To top it all, Carmy's character seems oddly one-dimensional. He keeps apologising to Sydney and saying he wants to be better without actually doing anything to be better. Sydney's reluctance to bring the issue up is also baffling, considering how she was more open with Carmy all through season 1. With only the finale left to go, I'm hoping it ties up all these loose threads, but we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.